Welcome to another edition of That Time When, flipping through the archive here at Trek Zone, going through the library, having a look at past sci-fi alumni interviews. Matt Miller with you at Trek Zone HQ today. The first time we met Larry Nemecek, and in terms of full disclosure, it was Movember, raising money for men's health awareness, so please excuse that mustache.
Taking you back through the library of Trek Zone in a bite-sized podcast. That Time When.
Well, welcome to the very first TrekZone.org interviews podcast. We're going to do this monthly and have a chat to anybody and everybody from science fiction. First up this month, Larry Nemecek joins me from the PAC TV studios in Los Angeles. Larry, thanks so much for your time.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me.
Now, you got started in Star Trek back in the early 90s, writing The Next Generation Companion. You've written a couple of episodes of, or you contributed a script to Voyager, and now you're actually acting on a fan series called Star Trek Continues as Dr. McCoy. How did it all come about?
Well, the easy answer is to blame my ninth grade science teacher, Mrs. Pollard, wherever you are, who shamed me into watching Star Trek because she couldn't believe I wasn't watching it in the after school reruns that we had, where tons and tons and tons of people came to Star Trek if they didn't see it prime time in the 60s. So yeah, I blame Mrs. Pollard, and and then of course the show itself for hooking me in, and a lot of patient people since then, a lot of good friends.
So what was it like getting started in Star Trek, writing that companion?
Well, Sonny, yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, I'd been a fan, and I'd also, harking back to Shatner's famous Saturday Night Live skit, I had a life. I had a theater and a journalism background, went to school in that. I worked in news. I put acting aside. I have a master's degree in theater also, in directing. But I needed a paycheck, and I didn't want to go be a starving, martyred young boy for theater. So I went back home and went into news and into print journalism, weekly and daily, and wound up being. But I combined a lot of that, and I wrote and I did some community theater. But I was a fan. I did fandom. We did conventions. We had our local clubs, and Next Generation came out. And it was kind of like a whole new breath of air again. There was something new, and I started doing a yearly concordance, kind of based on B. Joe Trimble's original classic Star Trek concordance, which was like an encyclopedia and an episode guide. And it was also when Macs were coming out, and so desktop publishing was a new deal. And I kind of learned Macs and all of that together, and with FileMaker for a database, and started doing an encyclopedia, and fan published it. It got to Paramount. The writers were using it, licensing heard about it, and I was kind of a finalist and then was chosen very quickly to do the companion. It was a hurry up and wait thing. The show was on for 5 years. Next Generation was out for 5 years and a huge hit, and they finally decided, well, maybe nonfiction reference books will sell. And I make fun now because back then it was very dicey. Yeah. So that's the story of the companion, and then it unleashed a whole slew of everything that's come since for me professionally.
And it's almost back then almost unheard of that there's this non-fiction literature to a fictional universe, and putting it out there, and the fans are using that and looking at that to get deeper into canon.
Well, I mean, we'd had it for the original series. Fans knew all about it. I mean, you had the original series. B. Joe's Concordance was there. Stephen Whitfield Poe's Making of Star Trek was a classic book, not just about Star Trek, but the first one that told, the lay audience how TV was made, which I didn't even realize until years later. I went, oh my God, this was like a classic book for anybody that wanted to know about TV. And it's sad that it's hard to find now, but you can find it. But we had the medical reference, we had the tech manual, the blueprints, all the original series, everything, the Franz Josef Schnabelt blueprints and tech manual, the medical reference, the giant poster book. And, Starlog Magazine's first issue was a Star Trek issue, and then they went all sci-fi, and then that was a Bible of science fiction for 20, 30 years, and before the internet revolution.
Wow.
So, original series, we had all this, but then we had 20 years of the same 80 shows, 79 shows, and yeah, Next Generation took a while to kick in. There were novels at first, but the Next Generation Tech Manual that Mike Okuda and Rick Sternbach did came out right before My Companion, and those are the first two nonfiction things to anything of the modern era, and they were huge hits. So there was a huge over-matured demand that was just waiting for those kind of things to happen, and then bang, we were off with all the spin-offs too.
Wow. And you also wrote the chapter openers and did some other research for the star charts as well.
Yeah, well, see, the whole thing with the star charts and stellar cartography is coming out this holiday season from 47 North and Amazon and publisher near you. And that's kind of the latest iteration of this. But the funny thing with the star charts is that was like one of the first things, when I got Bejo's Concordance, one of the first things that sucked me in. I wasn't a fanzine story writer, but Star Trek fans, part of the appeal of Star Trek is it hit people right off the bat, and people that watch the 60s show still, the first thing that strikes you is that's a complete universe they managed to make on that little piddly budget in the 60s. And you feel like you could just crawl through your TV screen and walk right into that universe and be there. There's very few shows, even sci-fi shows, that are that compelling. And that's what's in everybody, whether you wanted to play a role or just explore around or go see how the gadgets worked. The reaction of people when they become Trek fans, it's somewhere on that thing, but one way or another, you want to climb through that TV screen and walk in, and you know that if you go down this corridor and turn left, even though we never saw what was down there, you know exactly what would be there. Or if there was a room or a planet that you'd never seen or heard, just had heard about, you knew. And that's what's so compelling about the show, and that's what drives all of this, the nonfiction books and prop makers and shipbuilders and costume makers, cosplayers. That's one of the appeals of Star Trek, and that's one of the things that's never given up, and that's what hit me. And I worked on organizing the stars and planets, and tried to do a map based on what the Tech Manual's format was. It was barely filled in. And then a few years later, got in touch with Jeffrey Mandel, who worked one of the guys on the medical reference, told him critiqued some of his stars and said, some of these won't work. Your star for the Klingons is closer than your star for the Vulcans. And we started writing back and forth, and he said, well, thank you. 3,000 other people have told me that, but you're the nicest one of all of them. So you didn't scream at me, So we've had rabid, foaming fans for a long time.
Are you watching us on YouTube? Click the link in the description to catch this interview in full now. Maybe you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app. Then beam over to our official watch page and click the link there.